It's Chords and Coffee, and today I want to show you this really cool kind of CAGED system hack. I was thinking about you recently, and we did an episode on the CAGED system a while back, and I'm going to take that plus another couple of things that we've talked about. And even if you haven't watched those episodes, it's totally fine. You can jump in right here. This is great. What this is the premise of this is we are going to take some minor pentatonic ideas and blend them together, and then I'm going to take some very simple triad 3-note chord ideas, and I might add a 4th note in there. So 4-note chords, and blend those together. Very simple. It's going to be easy for you, and the net result, well, you will be able to get some improvisational ideas. These will be seeds in the fertile ground of your playing for you to create your own creativity, your own phrases, because it lays out on the fretboard really, really nice. So, without further ado, let me show this to you.
Every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time, we bring you a free guitar lesson with Chords and Coffee. These videos take time and money to create, and it's our free gift to you. All that we ask in return is that you leave comments on the videos and that you subscribe to this channel. When you do that, you make a massive difference in our ability to help to continue to have Chords and Coffee online for free. Thanks for being a part of this community, and thanks for watching.
So let's start off with this basic premise here. In every key, and I'm talking about a major key. Let's take the key of D, for example. In every key, you have 7 notes that yield 7 chords. And each one of those 7 notes of that major scale, those are all the colors that you have to paint with. So when I'm making a chord, I need to use the 1, the 3, and the 5. Why? Well, that's how triads are made. It's not up for debate. That's how you make a triad, okay? So if I'm in the key of D, for instance, and I want to make a triad, I go 1, and then count up 3. So D, E, F sharp. Is that the right pitches? Nope, not even close. Okay, so I go D, E, F sharp. Okay, so there's my 1, there's my 3, and then I go 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. D, E, F sharp, G, A, right? So boom. There's a D major chord. And I do the same math for the rest of it. So when I go to, E minor, I go, okay, E is going to be my 1. I'm going to count up 3. So E, F sharp, G. Okay, there's my 3. It's a G. I'm going to go to the 5th. Now E, F sharp, G, A, B. There's my 5. So on and so forth until you get all these chords. Now something magical happens when you add that 4th note, which is going to be the 7th. So in the case of D major, it's going to be a C sharp on there, so you can have D major 7. In the case of E minor, it's going to be a D. Well, how's that possible? Because the thing wraps around on itself. So as soon as I get to the C sharp on the end of this D major scale, it just starts right back over, okay? So on and so forth for all the chords until you get the first chord is going to be a major 7. That's going to be D major 7. The second chord is going to be an E minor 7, okay? The third chord is going to be an F sharp minor 7. The fourth chord is going to be a G major 7. The fifth chord is going to be an A dominant 7. Did a whole episode on that. The thumbnail looks like this. Doing. You should go watch it. It's really good. And then the sixth chord is going to be a B minor 7. And then the last chord, the 7th chord, it's going to be a C sharp minor 7 flat 5. Okay. Now, if you take these and you look at them, and today we're really just going to be focused on what I'm calling the release chords. But you can divide these chords into 2 camps. You've got your tension chords. That's going to be your 2. It's going to be your 4, your 5, and your 7. And then your release chords, that's going to be your 1, your 3, and your 6, which is what we're going to work on today. Okay? Now, there's a whole lot of return on investment beyond just being able to play, major ideas in the key of D. Obviously, if you're looking at this, hopefully you're seeing that anything that works over D will work great over B minor 7. It will also work well, but it will have a little bit of tension in it over the F sharp minor 7. And part of this whole game of playing music, maybe game's not the right word, part of this journey of playing music and where I think it's kind of a neat metaphor for life too, is learning to accept a little bit of tension in your release. And I feel like we can talk about that later. And also just ask a question, leave a comment below this video, and we can have a whole conversation about that concept in of itself. But today, what I want to show you is, we're going to take, and we're going to use the key of D, we're going to take a D major, and we're going to take F sharp minor pentatonic and a B minor pentatonic. I'm going to show you a cool way to combine those in one position, just over 4 frets, that you can move around all over the place. And I'm also going to show you how to combine all of the chords of the key of D with that. But first, let's just do these 3 that we got right here. All right, tune your guitar, find your guitar pick. I don't know, here it is. The problem with using these Ultex picks, I love them. Dunlop, I love these picks. In fact, I use a 1.14 Ultex, the standard, not the sharp, but the standard. But the darn things are clear. I mean, it looks like your grandpa's toenail, you know what I mean? It's just like clear enough and opaque. And if I lay it on this table, it's just like the pick becomes the predator stalking me in the jungle. I can't see it. Anyway, Predator reference. I award myself 10,000 points for that. So, let's see if we can not drip coffee on the cowhide rug here. All right. Let me get my coffee going. And let's get these shapes in our hands. First chord, you probably know a D chord, but just in case, maybe you're landing on this and you're like, I had never played that chord before. Well, man, I'm honored to teach it to you. Here it comes. It's going to be an index finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. I'm going to have my open D string. Then I'm going to have my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B, and then my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the high E. Okay, so remember that. We're going to place hold that. Now, going back to that CAGED system. Remember we talked about the way the CAGED system essentially works. C, A, G, E, D. But think of those as shapes. Like just then, that D chord, that's a shape, and you can move it around. So case in point, this C shape, it's like I'm making a C, but I'm sliding it up here. And because I'm sliding it up, now I love the way that open G sounds, Pink Floyd, Goodbye Blue Sky, Def Leppard, Hysteria. There's a lot of cool songs that use that. But for this, and for what we're doing here, we're trying to keep everything pretty straight ahead, pretty simple. Just these are working blue collar chords here, okay? Pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the A. Ring finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the D. Index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the G. And then middle finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. So you've got this D chord here. It's really important to see it that way, because when we start to integrate these scales with it, you're going to thank me for this chord grip right here, because it's going to lay out real nice, okay? Okay, so we've got this shape and this shape. And, here in a minute, I'm going to give you a couple variations on those themes. But for now, let's add 2 scales. Okay, the first one, this is easy. Just your basic, learned it, my first pentatonic scale. Usually we learn A minor pentatonic. I don't know why, but that's usually what we learn. We're just going to move that whole thing down here to the 2nd fret, starting on the index finger of the low E. Pinky's going to be on the 5th fret of the low E. Index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the A. Ring finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the A. 2nd fret of the D with the index, ring right back at it, 4th fret of the D. Now we're on the G string, 2nd fret with the index, ring finger right back at it on the 4th fret of the G. Index, 2nd fret of the B, pinky. Or you can use your ring. Ted Green says that one of the commonalities between, if you haven't checked out Ted Green, go on YouTube, type in Ted Green guitar lesson. He's no longer with us, God bless his soul, but master guitar player and even better teacher. He said one of the commonalities between Wes Montgomery, Eddie Van Halen, and Eric Clapton is that they all played that typical pentatonic box pattern with just ring and pinky, or ring and index. I find that interesting. I think you have to use your pinky when you get down to this note here on the low E. But anyway, so on the B string, index, pinky or ring on the 5th fret, and then on the high E, index, and then pinky or ring on the 5th fret. And so then when you come down here, so I've got this scale here, and we know that pretty good. And if I said let's play a B minor, you'd probably want to come up here to the 7th fret. There's actually 5 different positions for the pentatonic scale. And so when I'm playing B minor like this, there's one right behind it. And we're not going to talk about these today, but this is the one we're getting to. Let's start on the 5th fret of the high E, and let's walk it down. So 5th fret of the high E down to the 2nd fret of the high E. So far it looks just like the F sharp minor pentatonic. 5th fret of the B. Hey, but now we're going to hit this D note on the 3rd fret of the B. We're going to definitely use our middle finger for that. Right? And then now, ring finger on the 4th fret of the G back to the 2nd fret of the G. Now we're starting to look like the F sharp minor pentatonic again. And then the same thing on the D string, 4th fret with the ring finger on the D, down to the 2nd fret with the index finger on the D. Now we're going to go to the, definitely use your pinky here on the 5th fret of the A, down to the 2nd fret of the A with the index finger. And then back to pinky here on the 5th fret of the low E, and then down to the 2nd fret with the index finger on the low E. Now right there, if you're playing through that, you can kind of feel where that D chord kind of wants to be in there, that B minor pentatonic. And in fact, if I were to take what I just showed you, and in fact, let's add 2 more things to it real quick, just to make sure we're on the same page. How about a good old-fashioned B minor 7 chord, index finger from the A string all the way to the high E, making a human capo. Then you're gonna have your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the B, and your ring finger on the 4th fret of the D. Just good old-fashioned B minor 7, and then F sharp minor. It's gonna be index finger from low E to high E, 2nd fret, and then I'm gonna have my ring finger on the 4th fret of the A, pinky on the 4th fret of the D. Now, if I were to add all of these things up, that, and that, this, and then the B minor, that was F sharp minor pentatonic, then B minor pentatonic. If I were to put all of those together, it would kind of look like this. And this graphic that you're seeing, this basically, if you just start to look at that, you can see you have all of those different shapes all just crammed together. Well, Nate, why is that helpful? Lord have mercy. Let me take a drink of coffee here and explain this to you. That wasn't a rebuke. That was the wind-up before the revelation. Well, I'm going to tell you, because a lot of times as guitar players, especially when we feel like we get pretty comfortable with the pentatonic scale, we kind of want to jump around a lot, right? From one position to the next. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a good thing. It's an especially a good thing because it adds a sense of tension, a little bit of drama. It almost sounds like 2 voices sometimes singing together, especially if you get a little pickup selector switch. You know, maybe when you're playing up high, you switch to the neck pickup. When you're playing down low, you switch to the bridge pickup. That's cool. That's cool. But listen, if that's the only lure that you got in your tackle box, you're not catching as many fish as you should, right? And so with that being said, when you have like this kind of position playing where you're all right in here, what's nice about that is that if you're, you know, now use your imagination and pretend that's still going. There's a little bit more, I don't know, those neighboring tones sound a little bit smoother to me, and it sounds a little less jumpy. Also for what they call a comping pattern, which is a term that is short for accompaniment. And if somebody is playing, you know, like that, again, let's say it's a simple one, this D major 7 to this G major 7. I might go. Now in my mind, I'm not thinking about that as B minor pentatonic. I'm not thinking about that as F sharp minor pentatonic. In fact, to be quite honest with you, I think I do some of my best playing when I'm not thinking at all. What I've kind of conditioned myself is that all of these scales and these triads kind of crammed up together gives me a lot of different options for notes. That's really what I want you to have, is I want you to have that freedom. The freedom that comes from knowing all these neighboring notes together and how they function together. So which leads me to the next thing. How would we, if we were to combine these with all of the chords that are in the key of D, what would that look like? How would we combine that? And how do you even get started? Well, I think what's helpful is to have a couple different chord grips inside this position. And I'm talking about this little 4-fret span here from the 2nd fret to the 5th fret. Have a couple different chord variations there. Now, nothing too wild, because the whole point of this is that all of these things overlap with one another. So we've already got that D shape. One thing that we might do with that D shape that we didn't do before is what would happen if we put like this extra A on top of it. And so you end up it's really a D5, but I'm gonna call it a D and put this little A here in parentheses. And essentially what you have there is you got your index finger on the 2nd fret of the G, you got your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the B, and then your pinky on the 5th fret of the high E. And the reason that's nice is that is ready to combine with either that F sharp minor pentatonic or that B minor pentatonic or anything else that we're about to do that we can kind of use as a springboard on that A string of the 5th fret to get to some of these other chord shapes. So there's another shape, and you already know this one that we just did a second ago that's that C shape, but let me throw this out at you. What if while we're making that, what if we actually make that a major 7? Well, that's cool, because if you look at a D major 7 chord, in fact, maybe I can convince Jordan to put the graphic up. Jordan's the guy behind the camera. Anytime I ask him for an edit, he always gives me a sideways look. Okay, I love you, Jordan. You're a champion among men. All right. D major 7, it's got an F sharp minor in it. And you can see it'll be highlighted right there. Boom, you can see that F sharp, that A, and that C sharp, okay? So if I take my pinky and I put it on the 5th fret of the A string, got my ring finger on the 4th fret of the D, now I'm just gonna lay my index finger straight across from the G, the B, and the high E, all on the 6th fret. And if I want to make that just a regular old D major, I can put my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the B. But if I take it off, there's that D major 7. And also, again, look, I'm right there in that F sharp minor pentatonic, right? So there's 2 variations on the D. Here's an E. I really like this E minor. There's nothing wrong with that E minor right there. It's stellar. I love it. But what's nice about this one, index finger on the 2nd fret of the A, I'm gonna have an open E, then I'm gonna have my ring finger on the 5th fret of the D string. Another cup of coffee would be good right here. Man, I made it strong today. Like I can taste, Juan Valdez's hand sanitizer. It's powerful. Anyway, ring finger, 5th fret of the D, middle finger, 4th fret of the G, and then pinky on the 5th fret of the B. And then have an open E and open E. That's and I love that E minor shape, but also it's kind of right there in that almost in that BB box kind of area. And then, we've talked about this one before, but in case you missed it, index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret from the A string all the way to the high E. Straight across human capo, middle finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. Pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the D, and then open E. That E minor 9. And look, you can see the top of all the pentatonic scales that we're doing there, as well as there's an A chord hidden there. Also, everything's touching, and that's the whole point. The F sharp minor, you know that one, index finger from 2 to 2 on the low E to the high E, and then your ring finger on the 4th fret of the A, pinky on the 4th fret of the D. And then this guy. Sometimes you don't need to play the bottom notes like that, just the top notes sound really nice. That's going to be ring finger on the 4th fret of the D, index is going to be covering the G and the B on the 2nd fret, and then your pinky is going to hit the 5th fret of the high E. Now, truth be told, anytime you're laying a bar down like this, my index finger is also hitting the high E, but it doesn't matter because my pinky's picking up that 5th fret. Makes sense? Awesome. And then you got this good old G major 7 here. That's just a B minor hidden inside of a G. You're going to have your index finger here on the 3rd fret of the low E. Skip the A, ring finger's gonna be on the 4th fret of the D, pinky's gonna be on the 4th fret of the G, and then your middle finger is gonna be on the 3rd fret of the B. Now check this one out, I really like this one. So think of this as your G major 7. This is gonna be index finger on the 2nd fret of the high E, and then your middle finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. Ring finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G, and then pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the D. Now, that's the baseline level way to play that chord, but check this out. Move your index finger to the B string of the 3rd fret. Move your middle finger to the 4th fret of the G, and then put your ring now on the 5th fret of the D. Now what we're going to do is, you've got this little, where you're hitting that 6th or the 13th, if you want to think of it that way, since it's an octave above the root. I'm hitting that on the E string of the 5th fret. Not E string, B string, right? And then, this just kind of feels good to my hands, and I wanted to show this to you. So if I hit that note there, and then if I come up here with my index finger, and I hit the 2nd fret of the high E, and pull it off, and then, that's a cool lick. Yeah, so index finger, 2nd fret of the high E, pulling off, and then back to the 3rd fret of the B, and then pull that off to that B note, and then hit that pinky with the high E. Well, it's an E note, but it's on the B string. Pinky's gonna be on the 5th fret of the B string. There, I finally got it. That's nice. I'm gonna make a note here to do that. That's really cool. Stuff like that, finding little things that your hand likes to do. There was a great Jeff Buckley interview, and if you haven't explored Jeff Buckley, he is no longer with us, but he's the guy that, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, performed the quintessential version of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. But that is literally just the tip of the iceberg for Jeff Buckley. And in this interview, he was talking about, somebody was asking him about because he has really, really beautiful chords, and he used a lot of unexpected chords and had he had a very sophisticated approach to harmony on guitar. And he said, sometimes my hands just kind of find things that they like to do on the guitar, and I try to find a way to incorporate that into a song. And when I heard that, I was like, well, that makes a world of sense, because sometimes when you're just noodling around, if you'll pay attention and you're like, hey, that sounds pretty cool. Well, see if you can take that and then make that a thing that's unique to you. And you're like, oh, Nate, I don't know about that. Yeah, come on. You got creativity inside you, and the only way to get it out is for you to be open and willing to say, well, maybe that's it, and then just try it, okay? So moving on. So when we get to the A, here's another, it's really just an A5, but because it's 2 little bars here, but it's a handy chord, and you can see, again, this, the F sharp minor pentatonic is right there. So index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the D, and the G laying straight across, little tiny human capo, and then your pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the B and the high E. Open A right there. But here's another one, and this one's a little more fun. Because in the key of in the key of D, A7 is the 5th. A7 is your dominant 7. And you can make it like this, and that's great. Or you can make it like this, but I like this one. There's a Marshall Tucker song called This Old Cowboy, Marcus King. Marcus King does a beautiful version. I like it better. I'm sorry, but I do. Marcus King. And it's got this kind of chord shape in it. And so you're going to have your middle finger. I start with ring finger. Ring finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the low E. Index finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the D. And then your middle finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G. And then your index is going to be, I think I did all that wrong. Let's start again. Index is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. Middle finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G. Pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the D. And then ring is going to be on the 5th fret of the E. have more of this strong coffee. Or maybe I'm drinking too much coffee, and that's a problem. That's a really hip way to play like a dominant 7 chord. A lot of times I try to hit those harmonics when I can. There it was. Sometimes it don't work out. Anyway, you got your B minor 7, where I talked about that. You know the shape, index finger straight across the 2nd fret from the A to the high E. Middle finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. Ring is going to be on the 4th fret of the D. Now, this is another way to do it. What's nice about this, again, we want to see as many of these shapes touching one another so that we can play some of these neighboring licks and ideas. And in fact, you end up getting a greater return on investment because a lot of the same licks work over all these different chords. Index finger, 3rd fret of the B, pinky, 5th fret of the high E, ring finger, 4th fret of the G, and then middle finger, 4th fret of the D. And then last but not least, C sharp minor 7 flat 5. That's going to be index finger on the 4th fret of the A, ring finger, 5th fret of the D, middle finger, 4th fret of the G, pinky, 5th fret of the B. Here's another way to do that in the same general idea. A C sharp minor 7 flat 5 is really just an E minor over C sharp. And I can make this E minor chord here using my index on the 3rd fret of the high E. And then my pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the B. And then I'm going to have to use my ring on the 4th fret of the G. And that little BB box is right there, right? But now my middle finger is going to hit that C sharp on the 4th fret of the A. And that can resolve right nice to the D. Or to that B minor. That's a cool shape. It's also a really cool chord substitution for that A7 zone. A lot of cool ideas right there in one position. And it's movable. I can do all this same stuff up here in E. Just started on the 7th fret. Right? I can move it up to G if I want to up here. Right? It's all movable. But get it down in D. Get it to where you've got some licks in there. Explore the way that those different chords and those pentatonics overlap and lay on top of each other. And find some licks that you like. How do I practice this, Nate? Well, great question. Go to YouTube. You're on YouTube right now. As soon as this is over, go open up, type in guitar backing track key of D. You'll find several. Find one you like. Solo over that using some of these concepts, okay? What's going to happen is eventually, because you're listening to the same track being performed the same way every single time, it's going to be really hard for your brain to not to fall into like the same licks over that. That's okay. Go find a different track, right? Then find one in B minor, right? Exercise these same ideas over that, right? When you're playing with somebody else, or if you're playing in a band, or even on a Sunday morning, you might try integrating some of these different shapes into some familiar chord progressions. You don't have to do all new shapes, but maybe just, fit a couple in there and just see how it lands. Might be the coolest thing in the world, right? Might not be. It takes a little bit of experimentation. It takes a little bit of trial and error, just like life. And just like life, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. here on YouTube, we are living life the very best we can with a guitar in our hand. Friends, I really appreciate you taking time to watch this. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button. And most of all, thank you for being a part of what we're doing. We're building community here. And it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks for watching Chords and Coffee. We'll see you next week.